Today we're going to talk about soap essentials. The outline for the presentation is as follows. We'll begin with ensuring that everybody is aware of soap basics, eligibility criteria, ARIS fees, program application limits in terms of the number of programs that you can apply to during SOAP, some really important SOAP policies that you need to be aware of, and the SOAP calendar. We'll then briefly discuss some historical data from 2023 that looks at the positions offered and the applicant success rates in the SOAP. This is information that I think is really important so that applicants have a realistic understanding of what their chances of success in the SOAP may be. And then finally, some thoughts that are generally provided in terms of things that you can do to improve your chances in the SOAP. So the basics. The SOAP is a shorthand for the Supplemental Offer and Acceptance Program that is currently offered by the NRMP. It was established in 2012 to address serious instability and inequity that had previously occurred in the post-match period, which was known as the scramble. It was a period of time that I well remember, and it was essentially totally chaos in terms of individuals trying to contact programs. Certainly, this time frame would have made it more difficult for individuals who were not located in the United States to make bids for these positions that were unfilled. Anyway, the SOAP allows programs to offer unfilled positions to eligible, unmatched, or partially matched applicants through a series of 4 offer rounds during match week. Applicants apply to SOAP through the ARIS, but the SOAP process is actually managed in the NRMP's registration, ranking, and results system that you may already be well aware of, the R3 system. And it's essential that you all understand that for those who are registered for the match, there is no additional SOAP registration that is necessary. So what constitutes your eligibility for the SOAP? Well, if you're currently in the match and eligible for the match, you'll be eligible for the SOAP. If you end up being partially or fully unmatched by March 11th, 2024. An applicant's current verification status is always available on the applicant's homepage in that R3 system. And I want to make a point of indicating that the NRMP is the authoritative source for applicant SOAP eligibility status. Your SOAP eligibility status will display on Monday, March 11th with your applicant's matched status. So if you're matched, you will know that you're matched. You will not know where you're matched on March 11th. And if you're not matched to either one program, or you may have applied to multiple different programs, for instance, a prelim program and an advanced program, it will indicate to you if you're partially or completely unmatched. Now, you can participate in SOAP even if you did not get any interviews or apply to any programs, so long as you are registered for it. Your status will, like applicants who have interviewed and not matched, will also say unmatched when the match results are released. I point out that there is the possibility of late applicant registration for SOAP, with the registration deadline being February 28th. So that is the end date for your rank order list, and it's also the late application registration deadline for SOAP. We will go through all of this calendar again, but SOAP eligible applicants will have access to the list of unfilled programs beginning on Monday, March 11th at 10 a.m. And they can begin to apply to programs on the NRMP list of unfilled programs for which they are eligible the following hour. If you're fully unmatched, you're going to be able to apply to all program types. And if you're partially matched, you can only apply to the program types for which you're eligible. So if you've applied to, let's say, an advanced position and a prelim position, and you match in the advanced position, well, then the only position you would be eligible to apply for within SOAP would be the prelim position. If you have applied to at least one residency program by Monday, March 11th, 2024 at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, you don't pay any additional application fees during SOAP. If you did not apply to at least one program, there are some additional charges that will occur, and you can look those up on the website. Now, when you apply in SOAP, you can apply up to 45 participating programs during the entire SOAP process. You can do that all up front, or you can do it along the way, although there seems to me to be little reason to hold back in terms of your application. The 45 application limit, so that's the 45 program application limit, includes new programs. So the first time you've applied to those particular programs, and also applies to any previous programs which you applied to during the 2024 ERIS application season. So you don't get a free pass on programs that you have already applied to. You have to reapply to them, and they count towards your 45 participating programs. Importantly, once you have applied to a given program, you cannot withdraw your submission. So be careful and ensure that it's a program that you wish to apply to before you press that submit button. Policies during SOAP. You must be aware that you have to submit applications or other materials pertaining to the application using the ERIS system. I think that's pretty clear. You cannot initiate any verbal, written, or electronic communication with any program until you are specifically contacted by a program representative after the designated time on Monday, the 11th of match week, and after they have received your ERIS application. So if a program does not contact you or a representative that you are using, you cannot communicate with that program in any way. You cannot communicate with a faculty member that you might know there, or another resident, or anyone else. You are prohibited from applying. There's two other additional SOAP violations that I want to make you aware of, and that really has to do with the NRMP list of unfilled programs. Just be aware that you cannot copy it, you cannot share it, you cannot distribute it to any individual who is not registered for the match. You also cannot post it in any way or make it publicly available. So these are important guidelines, and if you do violate these, you can be subjected to investigation and the levying of sanctions, which could include your elimination from the program. Now, the SOAP calendar. On February 28th is the late registration deadline for SOAP, which I've already pointed out. But really, for most of you, what I know that you're interested in is what happens next. So on Monday, March 11th at 10 a.m., your match status will become available via the R3 ERIS system, and as well as, it should actually say via R3 NRMP system, and via email. At that point, SOAP begins, and the list of unmatched programs becomes available to you if you have not matched. If you've matched, you obviously know that you're not unmatched, so that you've matched. You just won't know where you've matched until Friday of that week. So 10 o'clock, you discover your match status, And then SOAP begins. You're given a list of unmatched programs. 11 o'clock of that day, you can start entering your SOAP applications into ERIS. So that list of 45 programs, your maximum numbers, you can begin to enter that into the ERIS system. The following day on Tuesday, programs begin receiving SOAP applications at 8 o'clock in the morning, and they can start asking for interviews. So they will begin their interviews, and those interviews will extend from Tuesday through Wednesday. So that is the time period, Tuesday, March 12th and Wednesday, March 13th, that you need to be ready for potentially people to call you and let you know that you have been invited to an interview. After the interviews are completed, the programs obviously look through the list of individuals they've interviewed and decide who they wish to offer the program spots to. They probably generate a rank order list in terms of their interest in candidates. You, on the other hand, have either been invited for interviews or not. If you haven't had any interviews, then essentially you're not going to have any success in this SOAP process. If you've been interviewed, then you have to wait and see whether or not during the first round you may be asked or you may be given an offer to join a program. So the SOAP round will begin at 9 o'clock. You will receive offers or not. If you receive an offer, you can decide to accept or reject that offer. If you accept the offer, that's the end of your SOAP participation, obviously. It's a binding commitment, and you have now a program to go to on July 1st, 2024, or if it's an advanced program the following year. If you did not receive any offers during the first round, there are still 3 more rounds to go where you may have received offers. It's important to note, though, that if you receive an initial offer and you turn that offer down or you let it expire so that you don't accept or reject it within that time window from 9 to 11, you will not be able to have that offer again. The program will not provide that offer to you again during the SOAP process. So this whole process is repeated 4 times. You can see that the SOAP round 1 begins from 9 to 11, the next is from 12 to 2, then 3 to 5, and finally 6 to 8 p.m., which is the final round on Thursday, March 14th. Generally speaking, most of the positions or many of the positions are filled by the first round. There's obviously successively less positions that remain open as you go through all the SOAP rounds. The last SOAP round ends at 9 p.m., or SOAP officially, I should say, ends at 9 p.m. And at that point, there is a posting of any unfilled positions in the R3 system. So any position that wasn't filled at the SOAP is now made available, and you can begin to contact those programs. Again, now you're released from the SOAP, so there is no obligation for you to have to be notified initially by the program before you can make contact. You can make contact with any of those programs. Finally, match day is on the 15th of February, or that should say March, on March 15th, 2024 at 12 p.m. Okay, SOAP application updates. You cannot make any edits to your ERIS CV. Whatever that is, it is. You cannot change that. But you do have the opportunity to upload a revised personal statement or personal statements, particularly if you're applying to several different specialties. And you can change your letters of recommendation. So I asked you to try and consider whether or not your current personal statement really has a good hook. Is it something that is really going to engage the reader? Because these program directors are going to be reading applications and personal statements rapidly, probably not getting through your whole statement, reading the first paragraph and deciding whether or not you may seem a person of interest to them. So is it something that's going to engage your reader, and does it sell you as a great candidate? Is it one page or less? This is not the time to have these long personal statements. I mean, generally I'm against them anyway, but you certainly don't want to have a lengthy personal statement. Even though I understand it's allowable, it's just not something that anyone, I believe, is going to read during this period of time. If you have additional US clinical experiences, research experience, or anything else that you think really is of value since you last uploaded your personal statement as well as your letters of recommendation, that may be something that would be of value to a program. So you consider whether or not that would change your application if you were able to include that. And since you can't include it anymore on your error CV, the only way to include that is either mention in the personal statement or somehow in some new letters of recommendation. So that brings me to new potential letters of recommendation. Has there been a change that would allow you to ask one of your writers to revise your letter, or maybe get a new letter from someone that you've been working with lately? If you are going to expand the specialties that you apply for in SOAP, you probably will need additional specialty-specific personal additional specialty-specific personal statement, as well as potentially letters of recommendation, so that it's not, it doesn't look like you've just applied to one specialty and here you are in the SOAP kind of applying to some additional specialties. And I would ask you to consider a professional review. You don't have much time at this point. You really want to make sure that your SOAP application is as good as it can be. Interviews during SOAP. The programs are going to contact you by telephone, by email, so make sure that you have updated, correct numbers in the ERA system. Keep your phone on ring, don't put it on buzz. Make sure the ringer's really on. Check your emails. Interviews are going to be brief. They're going to be 10 to 15 minutes at most. If they're virtual, I would say make sure that you have the proper attire ready. This can be kind of a challenge, especially if there's a time differential and you're in another part of the world. Make sure you have your attire ready. You can quickly change into some professional looking attire so that you can present yourself in the correct fashion during your interview. They may be by telephone, but most likely they're going to be virtual. And please ensure good internet connection. I know that's sometimes a problem, but it makes sense potentially to have a backup during this time period, even to go to some place where the internet connection is reliable, if that is indeed a problem for you. Okay, so in terms of the SOAP and unfilled positions, what truly is the story? So what I've compiled here is specialties which had greater than 10 unfilled positions. So if you don't see the specialty there, it means it did not have more than 10 unfilled, or did not have more than 10 unfilled positions. And so you can see the list begins with emergency medicine, with a total number of positions in emergency medicine in 2023 at just over 3,000, with 554 positions that were unfilled. This is pre-SOAP. This is after the general match. They still had 18.4% of the positions in emergency medicine unfilled. Family medicine, more positions available, 577 unfilled, and then the percent unfilled was 11.3. I would point that internal medicine categorical had only 3.9% of their positions unfilled. A little bit more positions in prelim medicine. You can see pediatrics, psychiatry, very low numbers of any kind of unfilled positions. Of course, surgery prelim always has positions available in the post-match. That is often something that programs do intentionally to leave those positions for the SOAP. And then transitional has 1,200 and had 1,200 or 212 positions available in 2023. So although there are positions available, they're not an enormous number of positions that are available to anyone. Now, here's where it gets a little tricky, and I think this is really important. If you look at non-US IMGs in the SOAP, and so there were 5,344 eligible applicants in 2023. Those who actually had a positive outcome or accepted a position were 304 people, which comprised 5.6% of the total number of non-US IMGs that vied for positions in the SOAP. I don't have data on you as to how many of these positions were medicine versus peds versus family medicine or emergency medicine. If you look at US IMGs, they fared better in terms of percentage and also as a total number, with 13.6% of those individuals who entered the SOAP having a successful outcome in terms of being able to accept a position. You can see here that US MDs, US seniors do much better in general than anyone else in the SOAP for lots of reasons, but these are the statistics. So recognize that if you apply for SOAP, that the chances of having a successful SOAP are not huge. This tells the story in a little bit of another way. If you really look at the graph here or the chart here, the general match rate, which is the annual match rate for 2023 among non-US IMGs, was 59.4%. So this was all comers, all non-US IMGs. They had a match rate of 59.4%. When you added into that the number of non-US IMGs that were successful in the SOAP, the total placement rate of all of the active applicants in the match plus the SOAP equaled 62.4%. So not a huge boost, a 3% really boost with the SOAP. Nonetheless, what does that mean? That does mean that some of you who I'm speaking to, some of you will probably be successful in SOAP. So it's just one of those things that you have to be aware of. Okay, how do I think you can improve your chances? Well, I think ensuring that your personal statement is top notch. I've already made mention of that, but consider adding new activities, certifications, publications, which may add value. If you're applying to more than one specialty, have a secondary personal statement ready, which is tailored for that specialty. Consider whether or not you can get additional letters of recommendation, but of course you have to act quickly. Now is the time to do this because it takes some time, as you know, for people to write letters of recommendation, and you must impress upon them the importance of this, the last sort of chance this year for a match, and you must ask them if they can produce this document sort of quickly. Not easy for a lot of people to do. Remember that when you're asking people to write letters of recommendation, please sit down and meet with them. Please give them your resume, discuss with them what you're doing, give them an outline to follow. It is so much easier for them. And there are also on the internet are multiple resources of standard types of letters of recommendation that they can use to guide them if they're not someone who is used to writing recommendation letters. It's actually a kind thing to do to help someone out with a letter of recommendation, a sort of draft, or not so much a draft, but an outline of what kinds of things might go in there if they're willing. Research programs that didn't fill last year and new programs, because it's likely that at least some of these will probably be in the SOAP. So past performance doesn't predict future performance, but new programs often don't fill. People are wary of new programs, and programs that haven't filled before may not fill again. It's worth doing this homework before the SOAP. Um, Two sources of information for you. The NRMP website, if you go to the main residency match report for 2023, on page 50 till the end of that document, you can see every single program in the country, how many positions were offered, and how many positions were filled. And this is in the regular match. It does not include the SOAP. So you can look at that and discern where there were positions that were available last year that did not, where they did not fill. You can also look at the ACGME website. That's the Accreditation Council for Graduate Medical Education that has to accredit all programs, and they have to accredit programs so that they can exist. So you can Google ACGME list of newly accredited programs, and you can see the programs that were accredited within the last 1 to 2 years. Again, these may be excellent programs, but programs that are in their infancy. For those reasons, they may not have filled. And so these are programs that you would want to research ahead of time so that if they did not fill, you will have some information about those programs already to aid in your SOAP process. Finally, I would tell you, use as many of your 45 application choices as possible. Now, if you're applying in a specialty and there were only 25 positions left in the SOAP, well, then you're going to apply to 25 positions or 25 programs unless you're applying, in more than one specialty. But it seems to me that you should really utilize all your 45 application choices unless there's some compelling reason for you not to. Look at programs that have more than one available position. They may be a little bit easier for you to get a position with. Consider whether or not you might do a transitional or a prelim year. If you're already living in the United States, I would look at programs in your state. I can't speak to specific things regarding individual states, but we do know that individuals who tend to live in states, do residency in that same state, tend to remain in that state. And there is a drive in most parts of the country to retain doctors in the states because we have a shortage of physicians. So there may be some incentives to programs to retain physicians in the state that program is located in. And so that's why I asked you to do this. Investigate less competitive and smaller community programs. University programs that might have an unfilled position certainly apply, but they may be filled with their own unmatched students. So be aware of that. And then finally, if you do get an interview, I believe that positivity, enthusiasm, and professionalism really matter. They really want to know that you want to be there and that you're excited about the possibility of being at their program, even if it was clearly not one of the choices that was at the top of your list. As well, I think you absolutely need to be ready if there are any red flags on your program or red flags on your application or any concerns on your record. You need to be prepared to address those and be able to eliminate any concern that a program director would have. So please revisit your applications. If your year of graduation, is sort of far into the past, if you haven't done well on one part of the, USMLE, if there was a failure, a poor score, something else that might have caught their attention on your application, please review that and be ready to talk about it. That's all I have today. I would like to offer you a free resource, and that is I created a brainstorming workbook called Craft Your Personal Statement about 6 months ago. It's really designed to help you write the perfect personal statement, and it's available to you on my website, imgspecialist.com, for complimentary download. So all you have to do is request it under promotions, and it's yours. I believe will be helpful for some of you, especially if you're revising your personal statements for SOAP. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. Thanks for listening.